on Tuesday, it was Melissa Walks' 12-year anniversary at BHIS.
Oh my goodness.
Does that mean it was the company's 12-year?
Pretty much.
Right.
It was our professional debut as a company, was 12 years ago on Tuesday.
When Melissa came on to straighten things
Melissa
out.
came on to straighten things out.
Yeah. Melissa
Just
came in and said, "What the hell is happening here?"
You guys got to clean up your voice a little bit.
And then the next day, Wednesday, was BB King's 5-year anniversary. So congratulations on that.
Oh my goodness.
It's funny, Brian, that you mentioned that because I'm wearing my DerbyCon shirt today. And my first day at work at BHIS was at DerbyCon. Because at the time,
That's right.
we were very small. There were only I think 9 testers at the time. And we met once a year at DerbyCon. And I guess that was the last year that we actually did that. But it was my first day. So I hadn't met anybody. I knew people's, pictures from, I knew Joff, of course, from, Security Weekly and all that. And I knew Bo because of the beard. And I knew John. But those are the only people I could recognize by sight. And I was so grateful that they were all in a mass right outside the hotel when I got there, so I could see them.
Well, the anniversary gifts by year for the 5th year is wood. So somebody needs to get you some wood, I guess.
I've got some wood.
Look at that. There it is. Perfect. And then Melissa's 12-year anniversary is silk or linen. So
linen. Let's go with linen.
Steer clear of that.
Linen, drapery, that sort of thing is the best, I think.
I love our customers dearly, and sometimes they send us to the help desk for stuff, which is kind of funny. Because whenever I call into help desks, and I do this with my ISP, I'm like, just look up my ticket and give me escalation, right? Because, escalation, I don't need to talk. I don't need to go step by step. And they're always like, you could tell help desk people, they're like, you're one of those guys, right? You're in the industry. You're one of those guys. My ISP has learned right now. I call in and I don't even have to say anything. They got it by caller ID. They go, yep, we're sending you to the senior network guy. Okay, cool.
That has got to be nice because getting tech support from the ISP is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. I think my luxury's about to end. They actually got acquired, and I'm a little worried about that. Hey, I wonder if Ashley's here with all this chat. Yeah.
Ashley, are you here?
I am here.
Hey,
Oh, fantastic.
It feels weird to have you on virtually because I know that you're just a few hours away. Like you should be here in Deadwood with us.
There she is.
I agree. I agree. So that would be nice. That was the plan.
Well, we're gonna get back to it.
Yes.
When is what are you going to be kicking up your conference again back out at DSU?
We're going virtual this year, and so it'll be next summer. But following in everyone's footsteps, we're going to be hosting a virtual camp for middle school girls over the holiday break. So you guys gave us 30 seats for our students, so we're going to give your audience 30 seats as well, and be able to let people know that. So I'm excited for it because we've been putting together a lot of online content anyways, and so now we can share more of that. And every girl is going to get a Sphero robot because we're going to teach them Python. So we're making
awesome.
we're making it as interactive as we can. And so they're still doing tons of hands-on stuff. We're sending them all a hard drive to rip apart to see what's in it. I mean, so we're putting together a big package that every girl will get. And so I'm excited for that.
That is so cool.
So I guess we can kind of get started with the introductions. The first time I met you face to face was at one of your events out at DSU, and I was floored. How many girls do you get to come out to those events and hang out in the dorms? Because my daughter went, and my younger cousin went, and I think my younger cousin is actually going to be following that into security, and I'm pretty sure she's going to go to DSU. And I'll talk more about that here in a second. But it blew my mind in the middle of South Dakota that you were able to get that many girls to show up. So how many people do you usually get to show up for those things?
Yeah, it's crazy. So in the last 7 years, we've had 22,000 girls at our events, which just blows my mind. Every year our camp, has, we cap it at 115. Is we have computers, robots, all sorts of stuff we send back with them. And dorm space is our challenge during the summer. But we usually have 200 girls on a waiting list. And so they come from all across the country. So we've had girls in the last 6 years, I think from 40 different states come to our camp.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's interesting because what you have done at DSU have really put, like, not just DSU but South Dakota on the map. I will be teaching in conferences and I'll be presenting in places, and people will say either A, I graduated from DSU, or B, they come up to me and they're like, hey, what do you know about this school? I hear about it all the time. What exactly have you, like, how did you actually come to the point of focusing DSU in that direction for cybersecurity and really just kind of make it a core center of excellence for computer security in higher education?
You know, as you said that, John, I was thinking we need to give John Strand an honorary PhD so you can talk about us.
I would do it anyway.
Let's see what we can make happen there.
Great.
So yeah, you know, this goes back to the 80s with the mission change for the university when things were struggling. And we were put as the technology school for the state. And then, you know, in the early 2000s, we started going after designations for our programs. So e-commerce is how we started, then computer security, then network security, and now cyber operations. So we keep close to what our designators want and need in curriculum, and we map to that as we have to, but it's taken off, and our increase in enrollment has been exponential. And, you know, right now what's interesting is that most of our students, we've really made a change from being regional students to national students. You know, over half of our students are coming in from other areas of the country.
Well, it's also interesting because kind of watching the curriculum and the way the curriculum was originally created, most universities, whenever they create a curriculum, especially in computer science, it's always based on like COBOL or, you know, something ancient, the Deedle books, and neither of the Deedles are still alive and updating their books. So what are some of the challenges that you have at DSU to try to keep this content completely current and up to date? Because I do watch your syllabuses, and it definitely seems like I'm not seeing things like, you know, Metasploit 101. Like when you're talking about reverse engineering, you're talking about stuff that's in the field today or was in the past few months.
Yep. You know, one of the things that sets us apart is that a lot of our faculty are practitioners themselves. So I've done digital forensic casework for over a decade. I've transitioned to only doing it for law enforcement now, which I'll talk about at the end. But, you know, Josh Stroshine, Bramwell, as you're going to have on today, you know, we are actively doing our work, which, you know, we're setting a different path for what a professorial route looks like. But the board has been responsive and it's worked out. So, you know, we find ourselves in a needed field at the right time and we're nimble, we're small. We have 1,300 cyber students, which is more than a lot of places, but we can make changes quickly, and it's been in our favor.
And so before you kick off, I do want to say something. You know, it's rare also that you've been with DSU like the whole way through, like committed to South Dakota, committed to DSU. And I've told this story, I don't know if you've ever heard it, years ago where I met Henry Rollins, and I was mad because I was in a band in Laramie, Wyoming, and there wasn't a scene there, and he yelled at me, and his basic point was, you need to make your own, he said, make your own effing scene, but we'll tamper that down, to make your own scene. So I'm going to make a little award for you. I don't have it here today, but I'll send it out. It's the InfoSec Henry Rollins Award, where you've literally created your own scene and scenes in the university, in CybHER, and just like the ability for you not to go in and say, what can I do that already exists as far as paths, but what are the scenes that I can create? And for that, you're absolutely one of my heroes. So everybody, I'm very, very honored to have Ashley here. She's in South Dakota. Like I said, it feels like she's like next door, because in South Dakota, we're really just one city with very long roads. So Ashley, please take it away.
Well, thank you. And I'm completely honored to be here and to speak with this awesome group today. And I'm going to talk about two things. One is my passion project, increasing women in cybersecurity. And I'm going to end with one of my research labs at the university where I do digital forensic investigations for law enforcement. So thank you, and let's get started. So a white guy in glasses. A few years ago, Gallup conducted a nationwide poll asking people of all ages, races, and backgrounds, what does a computer scientist look like? And the overwhelming response was a white guy in glasses. You know, I have absolutely nothing against white guys in glasses. I married one, but I'm not a guy, and I think that we need to understand that when we portray these images, that's what people think that they have to be to succeed. You know, stereotypes do prevail in many industries, and our field is no different. Our field is incredibly exciting, and women have innate characteristics that help make them successful. But we have to get past the stereotypes and introduce girls to the field so we can get more women. Early in my academic career, I really wanted nothing more to fit in. But it was apparent from the beginning that I was different from my peers with different motivations and interests. I was captain of my high school basketball team and pitcher on the softball team. And I didn't go to LAN parties, and I wasn't a gamer, but I knew that I liked computers and decided to study them at college. When I went to school to start studying cybersecurity, I was typically the only woman in the classroom, but it didn't really bother me. I worked at a help desk, I tore apart computers, I tutored my peers, and then I earned my bachelor's degree. Now, after that degree, I went and worked in the field as a security admin, but then I decided to go back for my master's degree with the intention of being a researcher and professor. And then finally, in 2010, I earned my PhD. And I was the first woman to do that at DSU. So after graduation, I moved to Philadelphia. I taught at Drexel University, and I loved being a professor in the city, but I wanted to be back where people were very student focused and a little more nimble and able to make responsive based decisions for your programs to what the industry needs. This brings me to my first point. You can't be what you can't see. Now, little girls grow up with images of princesses and tea parties. Hearing the phrase, "You are so cute." You know, this is my daughter at one of our trips at Disney World. But it's important to note that little girls can be cute and curious and sweet and smart. And this is Chloe at Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. And, you know, I'm a sucker for all things princesses too, but I know that I want her to understand what is in the field of cybersecurity, and it's an option for her. So you can be a princess with a power tool, if you will. And you can't be what you can't see, but it's impossible to be something that you don't even know exists. I've made it a point to put my little girl in an area where she sees lots of women doing some amazing things. And in this montage of pictures, I have her, you can see her with the Secretary of the Air Force at the time. You can see her with the Commandant of the National Cryptologic School at the National Security Agency. In the middle, it's Liza Mundy. She's New York Times bestselling author of Code Girls. In the upper right-hand corner, that woman, she is the owner and president of the Hetherington Group, an open source intelligence firm. And down below in the bottom right, it's Amberine Siraj, and she is the president of WSIS. You know, while we can be a princess, we need balance, and we need to see powerful women that are kicking ass in this field. And so as I travel the country, I often bring my little girl with me, which I recognize is a huge luxury. But I want her to see women who are just excelling in this field and have her go up to them and put her hand out and introduce herself and say, "Hi, I'm Chloe, what's your name?" And so to me, we need that balance. And it's important to understand that women can be what they can see. And so we have to do this. And one day in January, I realized that I might have been too selective in bringing her to my events and letting her see so many awesome women. There was a snow day, and she came to my office, and one of my colleagues stopped by, and she said, she said, who was that? And I said, oh, that's Professor so-and-so. And she said, boys can be professors too. And so I thought that was cool, but I realized maybe I was showing her too much of one side, so she's got to see it all. You know, one phrase that I've heard a lot of times in my career that brought me to founding CybHER is that they are just not interested. Now, these 5 words completely changed the trajectory of my life. I never grew up thinking I was a feminist. I never grew up thinking I needed to change things for others. But I heard this phrase too many times to not do something in response. You know, typically someone with good intentions would look around the room of all men and one woman and ask, where are the women? And without hesitation, someone would say, they're just not interested. You know, it's not that they are trying to not include us or anything. They just feel that they just aren't interested. And that would make my blood boil. But, you know, I didn't have much to stand on by saying, yeah, we are, because no one else was there. So I didn't want to rock the boat, and I didn't want to bring up another powerful stereotype of women with their emotions. And so I typically just kind of went like, I don't know. And I knew in the back of my mind that we are, but we just aren't creating anything that they're interested in. So that really kicked off the next 10 years of my career, creating a program for girls to learn cybersecurity. In 2013, the NSA started hosting summer camps to get girls interested in cybersecurity, or kids interested, excuse me. So hoping that they would ultimately study at college and become professionals. We all know that there's a big gap between available positions and qualified professionals. And so their approach was to host camps across the country that could then get kids interested. When we had our first camp in 2013, it was a co-ed camp at DSU. We were a pilot, one of 4 in the country. And we went through and we had 200 kids sign up for that camp. And at that camp, we had only 10% women. And so I said, when the NSA was on campus evaluating the camp, I said, you know, I think we could have a girls only camp. And so I started quietly lobbying for that. They asked why we could have a girls only camp if we only had 10% representation at this camp. That was an excellent question, and one that I'm not sure I fully knew the answer to at the moment. But I did feel that if we created something for girls, that they would be interested. The NSA asked me how many women I thought I could get at the camp. And without hesitation, I said 60 women. And inside, my stomach was in knots, because I don't think anyone in the room believed it, and I'm not sure I did either. But I knew that it was my shot and I had to take it. So a short while later, I received notice that we had funding for a pilot camp in 2014 for 60 girls. Now, we used the word pilot because we didn't know if it was going to be successful, and they didn't want to invest in something without knowing that there would be people interested. And so, you know, inside I was terrified, but I went to work. And the big thing to keep in mind is that what I thought that it was going to be a struggle to fit those 60 people, I was wrong. You know, I told my husband that, you know, we have funding for 60, and he said, well, you're going to get more than that. I said, I don't know. And I had all these what ifs in my mind. What if, what if, what if? And, you know, ultimately, 2 weeks later, we had 180 girls signed up for this camp. 180. We thought we had 60 when we had 180 sign up. So I went 2 weeks without looking at registration at all. I opened it up, I sent out some emails, and then all of a sudden 180. And I kind of had this holy crap feeling like, okay, I was scared that we weren't going to have any, and now we have 180. What do we do? Because that's 3 times as many, and I knew we wouldn't have all the dorms with air conditioners that we needed at that time. So, you know, this brings me to my second point, is that you can't, you know, we talked about if you can't be what you can't see as a first point, But the second point is, if there isn't a seat for you at the table, just make your own table and be confident about it. And so here we are, 6 years later, 7 years later, with a camp that is always full, with over 200 girls on a waiting list every year. And so that first camp, we went from 60 to 100. I went and got some additional funds from SDN Communications to be able to bring this camp to more people. I reached out to them and I told them the situation we were in, and I asked them if they could come to the table with some money so we could expand our camp. And without hesitation, they did. And so that was awesome. And so now we're in the 7th year of our camp. And it's the largest girls-only camp in the country that the NSA supports. And they have over 150 camps throughout the country every summer. So we have the largest co-ed camp, we have the largest girls-only, and we also have the largest teachers camp. And so it's just pretty amazing what we've been able to do with that partnership with them. But if there isn't a seat for you at the table, just make your own table. With starting CybHER, we have a mission statement. The mission of CybHER is to empower, motivate, educate, and change the perception of girls and women in cybersecurity. Now, we have 2 guiding principles that has really helped us succeed in this area. Now, first, we don't talk about the gender issue with the girls, because middle school girls are trying to fit in and they don't want something else that makes them weird, right? So when they go out and we talk to classrooms, we go out to so many classrooms every year. This year it's a little different. They can go out to our website, cyber.org, and then we go to their classroom with different activities that we show them things. But we don't go in there and say, if you want to go into the field of cybersecurity, you're going to be one of 10 people in a room. We don't say that. Instead, we just show them what a woman in cybersecurity is. And the second is that we don't lecture. We don't go in with a PowerPoint and click through. We show them a hands-on activity. So one thing that I love to do, I'll go in a classroom and I'll say, how many of you guys have ever cracked a password? And they kind of look around like, is she really going to take us through how to crack a password? And we do. We have them crack the word password, and they see that it takes a fraction of a millisecond to crack that password. And from there, we have them make a stronger iteration and crack that. Okay, with the algorithm, we can see that it takes this amount of time to crack it. And iteration by iteration, they then have to tell us what makes a strong password. And then we talk through that. So if we go into a classroom of middle schoolers and talk about credentials and the importance of passwords, we're going to lose them. But if we go in and teach them how to crack a password, some harmless things, I think, they can start to see, okay, this is why I need a really long password with some different characters and non-dictionary words. And they start to get that because they've seen it. We also bring in a lot of social activities into these social responsibilities into these activities. So my field is digital forensics, and I'll bring in a flash drive. We bring in systems. I'll bring in a flash drive that's been salted with some text messages, some pictures, and things like that. And we'll go through and they plug in the flash drives. They see that there's nothing on it. And then we show them how to create a forensic image and then recover the data from that flash drive, from that image. Well, it's an eye-opening moment. And then I ask them, okay, so that text message you sent your friend, or that email you sent, well, they're young. Email's not really their thing, but that picture you took with your friends being a little silly, showing them how we can recover that. One of the pictures they recover, I asked them to look at it and tell me where that picture was taken. It was a picture of my husband and I in February at a golf course in Arizona. And I asked them to tell me, what time of year, where were we, and all of this. And they all say, oh, it's summer and dusk is what it looks like. It was the middle of winter and it was early in the afternoon. So they start to realize with metadata what that is and what kind of information they could be sharing about themselves that they don't want to share. So within an hour and a half, we can go through these activities with a group of girls, and they learn, why they need strong passwords and what they are. And they also learn about being smart about the digital data that they create, because it is recoverable. I'm obviously not young, I'm younger, but when I was their age, I could go and take a silly picture with my friends with a Polaroid camera. And if we didn't like it, we could cut it up and throw it away. No one would see that. They don't have that luxury. And so we have to show them, all of those things behind the scenes that they might not know. So, here's our mission statement, but our two guiding principles are: one, we don't talk about the problem, we just show them women who are kicking ass. And two, we don't lecture, we do hands-on activities. And so that way we get them understanding what this field is all about. As I mentioned, if there's not a seat for you at the table, make your own table. And that table can look different at different times of your life. So there's lots of tables. So this is our CybHER club at DSU. My daughter Chloe, you can see her there. It's like a Where's Waldo of Chloe in all these pictures in her Hogwarts dress. But these are collegiate women, some of our collegiate women on campus. We now have over 80 active CybHER members that are doing stuff for us each and every year, which is so exciting. These girls, we've fundraised an endowed scholarship. And so this fall, my partner, Pam, my co-founder, you can see her right here next to me, we've now given out our 20th scholarship for women in cyber at DSU. So that's super cool. We have, we've fundraised for professional development. So all of these girls and male allies, because male allies are critical. This, the women, getting more women in cyber is not a woman's issue; it's everyone's issue. It's just smart business, if you ask me. But what we do is we have them go and volunteer in classrooms, and then from there, whoever volunteers the most hours, we take them with us to Women in Cybersecurity, which is our national conference where 1,500 women every year come together, women and men, and we have an awesome 3-day program. So our last one was at Carnegie Mellon. It moves around the country. It was last year, we went virtual. I've been the program chair of that for the last 4 years. And so it's just such a fun program to be involved in. And so as I mentioned, this is another table. We now are starting our camp that we would have had this summer. We're going virtual, and I'll mention that at the end, but we have something special for all of the Wild West Hacking Fest audience that they can take advantage of. But this camp it's super fun. We bring in, John came one year and did digital forensics for us when his daughter came. We bring in so many different speakers. This is Amber Schroeder. She has paraben forensics. We bring in the FBI every year from Minneapolis field office. They bring down their CART remote surveillance van so the girls can go through and they can meet different computer forensics people and professionals. And one thing we started doing last year that we will continue doing forward is that we teach the girls how to create phishing emails. And you might think, okay, you're teaching them how to crack passwords, how to create phishing emails. We're not trying to create little hackers, but what we're trying to do is show them what are some of the common ways that attacks kick off and how can we thwart those from the beginning. And so I created my team did not know this, and I felt a little bad, but it ended up good. I created a grid of all the camp staff, and I had some questions on top. How many kids do you have? Where did you go to school? Do you have any pets? What are their names? And I had them go and try and social engineer the people. Well, then we use KnowBe4. And so it's a commercial tool. The reason we did that is because we didn't want to show them how to do phishing with an open source platform where they could continue doing it after they left. So we wanted to be able to take away that access. But we let them phish their families and the campers. So one of the girls took an email, and I send out an update email every night, and I sent out. She got in front of it, and she sent out an email to all of the staff because she knew them all. She'd figured out their email addresses with the weekly update or the nightly update. And she said, hey, some of your rooms have been changed, and please look at this attached spreadsheet to figure out where you're going to be teaching tomorrow. And I wouldn't do anything that drastic in the middle of a camp. But I mean, what a smart thing for her to do, because she realized that I was sending out these updates. She knew that the rest of the team would be looking at an email from me as legitimate. And she had like an 80% click ratio, which was just crazy. You know, right audience, right time, right message. She nailed it. And so what we had the girls do is go through and create a list of things to look out for on phishing emails. So that way they could go back, and they made bookmarks, go back and share that with their families. So, you know, bringing in that social responsibility. You know, your table can look pretty different yet again. And so this is Women in Cybersecurity from last year, 2019. You can see my daughter Chloe down here. And she's there with the founder, Amberine Siraj. And Amberine requests that Chloe comes every year because she, you know, they want to see bringing in as many people as we can. But this is 1,500 women, where 1,500 women and men come together every year and talk about the latest in our field and support and mentor. So, you know, that table definitely looks different depending on where you're at. And so what does this mean? All of this work, it's been very experimental. You know, started with just not wanting to be the only woman in the room, and knowing that to get more women, we had to have more girls. So what does this look like for DSU? And from the fall of 13 to the fall of 19, we've had a 595% increase in women studying computer science, cyber operations, and network security in our field. So in our college, at the Beacom College. And this is just incredibly exciting. You can see in fall of 13, we had 10 women studying computer science. In the fall of 19, we had 53. With cyber operations, we had 8 in 13, 70 in 19. In network security, we had 3, and we went to 23 in fall of 19. So collectively, between these 3 undergraduate programs, we've had a 595% increase in women in these programs. And making little tweaks in your messaging goes a long way. You know, as I was going through trying to find some of the icons to put on this graphic, I couldn't find anyone where it looked like a woman was in here. So I just had them made. I reached out to my team and I said, hey, could you make this instead of it looking like a man? Could we just make it with longer hair or a ponytail or something? And yeah, we can. And so why aren't we? Because those little tweaks matter. But, you know, this to me is incredibly exciting because we looked at the point where 15 years of enrollment data, we were very static. We were very flat. And then we created an intervention where we go out into schools, we host events. We've hosted over 120 events in the last 7 years. And from there, you know, we're doing some pretty awesome things. So we're seeing students wanting to come and study just because now they understand it a little bit. And so to me, that's just, that in itself is just exciting. We're creating a little army of women who are just going to excel in this field. So some resources, where do you start? Out on our website, cybher.org, we have a lot of content for you guys to look at. We curate and create. We want to go through and take a look at existing resources and highlight those, but we take it a step further and we categorize it. So if you are looking to learn Python and you're in middle school, you know, here's pyladies.com. If you want to know about security and you're in high school, we have different resources for that. So we didn't just throw out a list of web addresses. We have their title, and we have a little bit of a synopsis that we've written ourselves, and we've put it at a grade level. So go out to our resource page on our website, cybher.org, and you'll see a lot of that. And we created a YouTube channel this year. I would love to see more subscribers and more people checking it out. We have, with the pandemic, we obviously couldn't go out to classrooms anymore. And so there's been aspects of our program that we've wanted to create for years, and we just haven't. And so this has actually given us the opportunity to do that. And it's been really cool to see that. So if you go to youtube.com/CybHER, we've hit enough subscribers to have a personalized address with YouTube. We have different types of videos out there. So one of the things that we saw right away is that, you know, girls would get a little intimidated if they didn't know what certain keywords in our field meant. You know, what is cyber anyways? What is hash values? What's password cracking? What is red teaming? What is purple team? What is blue team? What is steganography? So we've created a host of videos that are pretty small in time for them to go out and check. But we have some activities here where you can see, you know, password hashing and cracking. We take them through that in 3 minutes. An intro to networking, how does the internet work? 7 minutes. Your digital footprint. So how do you have to be careful about your activities online to keep safe? So here are those quick little videos. We try and keep them under a minute. You know, what are VPNs? What's an incident response? What's cyber warfare? The CIA triad, things like that. And they can go through and watch these little clips about cyber terms. Something really cool that we created this year, and this was as a result of not being able to go into the classroom, but getting to our first point is that you can't be what you can't see, is we created something called CybHER Conversations. And every Wednesday at 4 Central, we have a new woman on who is talking about cybersecurity and what she does in that field. We kicked it off with Diane Janicek. She is the commandant of the National Cryptologic School at the National Security Agency. Another one of those badass women who are just doing so well. So these are about half an hour each. And we bring in these women who are doing awesome stuff. We just had the Vice President of Security at Facebook, Jen Henley. So we're bringing in these women. We're showcasing their specific niche in cybersecurity. We've had women in artificial intelligence, people on the response side, people on the offensive side, in showing what they do and what are some of the careers in this field. And then we have podcasts. One of my favorites, Cynthia Hetherington. She's just awesome. She owns the Hetherington Group, and it's an open source intelligence training and investigative firm out of Jersey who do pretty awesome things for very large entities and governments, but she focuses on training law enforcement. So go out to our website, check out some of the resources we have, and then go to our YouTube channel if you have any girls around. But if there are any women in listening that we should feature, reach out to me, because we would love to do that. Today, for speaking at this conference, John and Velda and the team, they were really awesome in allowing us to have 30 DSU students attend. And so to thank them, we would like to reserve 30 of our 115 seats at our virtual CybHER camp this winter for the Wild West Hacking Fest audience. And so you can go out to our website and register, but then if you go to camps, you'll see Gen Cyber, and you can register here. Send me an email and I'll move you from the wait list into camp. So it's going to be a work at your own pace camp, but we're going to cover digital forensics, phishing, Python, networking. We're still going to cover those very technical things. Every girl, we're limited to 115 campers because we're sending them a box. And in this box, every girl will get a mini sphero robot that they get to keep, and they're learning Python on that. Every girl will have a flash drive in the box, and their digital forensic activities will be taking them through recovering the files and understanding metadata and those types of activities. Also embedded on there are some crypto challenges that they have to solve. Every girl is going to have a hard drive that's been retired from Steam out of Sioux Falls, and they actually get to tear it apart and see what the inside looks like. And so understanding the physical aspect, every girl will get a book. I'm going to grab it. Code Girls. Liza Mundy wrote this, and it's just such a great book about women cryptologists that broke code in World War II and how it helped us win the war. And so they get to start seeing different aspects of our field and understanding where they fit in different careers that they could have with it. So every girl will send it to their house, but they'll get this big package full of cool stuff and posters that they get to use. So you can go out and register for the camp. Send me an email, and I'll have my email address out there. It's on Discord right now too. And let me know, and we'll save a spot for you guys. As I mentioned, every year it sells out. So we open registration, and we haven't really publicized it yet. And I think right now we have 60 or so in the last couple of days. So we'll definitely fill up before next week, but I'd like to hold some spots for you guys. And again, it's all virtual, so we're going to open it up after Thanksgiving with the idea that a lot of kids can do it over their holiday break. So one of the things I wanted to end with is showing that one of my area of digital forensics, my area is cybersecurity, and that's digital forensics. I founded and I'm the director of our lab, DigForCE, Digital Forensics for Cyber Enforcement at DSU. So I spent about a decade doing private cases for individuals and companies all across the country. So I had a lot of retainers at one point. To be honest, I had a lot of student loans. I went to school for 8 years, and I wanted to pay them off quickly, and I knew I had a skill set. So I thought, well, why not just do digital forensic casework? So when I was out in Philadelphia, I did some for some pharmaceutical companies. New Jersey was an at-fault divorce state, and so there's a lot of civil work that I did out there, you know, who did what and that kind of thing. But when I moved back to South Dakota, I transitioned to doing a lot for banks and entities that had been breached and have to understand what happened and what data went out. But all of you guys know that field is incredibly challenging because you have to be ready at any point, and nights and weekends don't exist. And so 2 years ago, I decided that, you know, instead of doing private cases, to only do cases for law enforcement, because I was starting to help with some of those. I would never charge them. But I thought, you know, there's an opportunity to help here in South Dakota. So I have a partner in this lab. So we're co-directors, but he's on the DCI side. So Agent Toby Russell, he works for Division of Criminal Investigations. And so together, him and I, we lead this lab that's funded through the Attorney General's office in South Dakota. So currently in South Dakota, when something happens, when they need someone to analyze digital evidence, well, the crime lab in Pierre doesn't have digital forensics there anymore. And we have ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children throughout the state, but they're paid through federal funds in order to respond to child endangerment activities. And so the Attorney General's office knew that they needed a resource in order to conduct investigations for law enforcement throughout the state. And so that's what we started 2 years ago. And my last quarterly report that I just turned in, we had investigated, in the last month, we've had 40 cases with over 100 devices. So we do most of the narcotics phones for highway patrol. It's just not dumping a phone in Celebrite and passing it off. We do the analysis part of it too. But we do law enforcement training and casework, and then dark web and IoT digital forensics research are our 3 objectives. We actually have a hodgepodge of funding. We have funding through the National Science Foundation, partner with South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, where we pay for PhD students to get their degrees. And from there, they're able to have their degrees paid, but they work in our lab as well. We have an REU program, Research Experience for Undergrads, where students from all across the country come to campus during the summer. They get a stipend, they get paid, and they get experience analyzing different devices. So, you know, what's the artifacts on an Alexa? What can we pull off a drone? Those kind of things. I do private contracts for entities. I get to do some really cool things there. I got to be careful what I say because I have non-disclosures, but we have the ability to procure some special items on the dark web with our partners in law enforcement. And my research team partners over in mines, they analyze the devices for originality. And so we're doing some groundbreaking work there. And hopefully at some point we can share some of that. On the law enforcement side, every year we have $250,000 that comes from the AG's office. The Sioux Falls Police Department gives us funds as well, public safety. So we're doing a lot of things for law enforcement in the cities and counties. We don't do anything for private entities. So we're doing some cool things. One case that has been adjudicated was, this was out on dark web blink, but it's been adjudicated, so I can talk about it. U.S. attorneys Ron Carson, they had a case that they were working with Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. Sioux Falls cops caught a street doper at McDonald's, like you are, and on his person in his backpack, he had a laptop, a phone, a card, and drugs, meth, and other stuff. You know, kind of the fun pack in the backpack. And he was arrested, and the digital devices through HSI came over to our lab at DSU. Well, what we did is we analyzed the systems, the cards, the phones, and all of that. We found where this guy was procuring his drugs on the dark web. So we found that. You know, people think it's all anonymous, but there's a lot of host-based artifacts that are left behind. So you have the .onion sites that you can recover. And if you create bookmarks, you know, that's on you because we can see where you go. So we could see what marketplace he was buying his drugs from, and his crypto tumbler that he was using as well. And then he had an unknown executable on his desktop. And I thought, well, you know, I hashed it, took a look around, couldn't find it, didn't know what it was. And so Dr. Josh Stroshine, who you guys will have in training this week, he reverse engineered that file. And what he found is that it was a ransomware malware, and the CNC server was hard-coded with an IP that came back to Sioux Falls, a Midco IP. So what the guy was doing is he had ransomware that he was infecting people with and using the funds he got from that to buy his drugs on the dark web. You know, that's what we're seeing here in South Dakota. We're seeing some people have some legitimate skills, unfortunately, to do these kind of things. And so those are the kind of things that we're seeing, the kind of things we're doing in our lab at DSU. So I'm going to turn this off and go back where I can see all of you, and I want to open it up for any questions.
Great presentation. Thanks so much for that. I don't know if you're aware, Ashley, we do have our Annie Oakley's channel in the Discord. So if you have time to spend some time with the Annie Oakley's crew, that would be fun. I spent a little time there yesterday, kicking off a few conversations and having a lot of fun there. So I'm sure they would love to discuss with you some of the great things that you've presented this morning, because this is a really great effort. And I just have to say congratulations. I know you're a few years in, right? So this has been a long run. Let's turn it over to the folks on Discord. Are there any questions that anybody wants to put forward?
And on Sunday, I did put a little brief intro out on Discord, so they have some of that information out there as well. But I was the first one to publish there, so it might be, at the bottom.
Yeah. Oh, I have one here from my good friend and colleague Sally, who's saying what I see all too often is that women have to be like one of the guys to be seen as competent in security, pen testing in particular. Have you got any suggestions on how we could change that?
I think individually and collectively, we all need to make an effort just to be who we are. And that in itself will help change that dynamic. I think, I don't know if I would classify myself as a girly girl, but I love pink and I like all sorts of cool stuff. And, I like to decorate my house and do all that home stuff as well. And so I don't know if I necessarily fit the mold either, but I think the more that we are ourselves, the more we open it up for other people to be themselves. A quick example of that is last weekend, one of our neighbors out here at the lake stopped by inviting everyone to a party this coming weekend and into the summer party. And she said, "Oh, I know that your husband is a professor of my boyfriend's sister." And I said, "Oh, Terry Riley. No, that's me. I was her professor." And she's like, "Oh, I just assumed it was a man because I said professor." So it's become, that's a very masculine phrase, but, we're there. I'll go to court and someone will say, "Oh, are you Dr. Podhradsky's assistant?" Yeah, I am. And then they'll be surprised when they see me later on. But yeah, I think that, the more that we can just be ourselves and the more that we can be unapologetically ourselves, I think the more that we're going to advance in that space.
Yeah,
But
that's absolutely true. I mean, it is so hard when you're pushing against just this endemic cultural stereotype, and it's not, obviously just not this country either, but it just is, like you said, the more you can be yourselves, the more you can be out there and visible, the more that people will hopefully pull up and go, "Oh, wait, it's not a male. It's okay,"
Yeah.
And that's important. There was another question here that I saw from the Discord. As somebody not tied to a university system, how can I help and grow programs like this in my community? And I'll sort of throw that out generally. How can we help, even in the security community, to support what you're doing?
Yeah. All of our individual efforts, I think, are important. Keeping in mind that we might have some preconceived notions and trying to work past that. But I think collectively, we do need to look at national efforts and work together. And so Women in Cybersecurity, WICIS, WICYS for We Sisters, they are our largest gathering of women every year, and again, with male allies. But for women who are in their career, we at CybHER, we focus on bringing women up, and then we want to hand over to WICIS because we can't be everything to everyone. We're not an organization for, we don't have enough resources to provide for all of it. And so recognizing our own limitations and working with other entities on that. So go to wicis.org. They have different affiliates all across the country. And so then you can join an affiliate in your area. We have a South Dakota affiliate that we just started. Katie Shuck, she's a PhD student at DSU. She's the president of our South Dakota affiliate. But join an affiliate and meet others like yourselves and go to the national conference. it sells out within a day.
Okay.
So yeah, when you see it open, it closes that same day. But get involved with those kind of initiatives, because then you can do some cool things together.
That's fantastic. I was interested recently. It's been, obviously a turbulent year in 2020, and myself and my wife, we personally got interested in the idea of trying to put together some scholarship help at some point. But one of the things I realized, and we've looked with Velda at what you're doing and what some of the other folks are doing, ISC Squared and so on, that there's only so much you can do, right? There's only a certain demographic that you can sort of focus on and do well. But it's nice to have that network that you can hand off to, because one of the things that occurred to me was I think there's a lot of a community out there also where women are transitioning from other careers potentially into cybersecurity, and there's a big opportunity there to help in that space as well. And as we looked at it, we were trying to focus on what was the right space. So it's just a really great discussion.
Yeah.
That we're way overdue to have. As a proud father of now a 21-year-old daughter, I wish she'd gone into cybersecurity, but we did a lot of great things when she was younger in the whole Lego robots field as well. So it's that kind of thing is a lot of fun to try to change people's perceptions. And there's some great comments. My daughter is starting her schoolwork for cyber, and she considers forcing inclusivity pandering. So proud of her. Yeah, that's a great statement.
So thank you for having me, and I look forward to working with some of you and continuing this conversation.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being here this morning, Ashley.